Joining me now to talk about some of the latest and greatest going on with sports media, SBJ's Mollie Cahillane. Mollie, thank you as always for coming on.
As always, happy to be here, Austin.
All right, Mollie, it's Wednesday. We're 2 days out from the opening ceremony in Paris. Been talking about it for years now. You were at an opportunity to talk with longtime NBC Olympics executive Gary Zenkel. What are some of his expectations ahead of these games?
Well, first of all, shout out to our colleague Rachel Axon, who's going to be on the ground for
On
three
the
weeks
ground,
there.
keeping it live.
I'd say I feel sorry for her for 3 weeks in a row, but she is in Paris. But in terms of my talk with Gary, so he thinks this is going to be a quote, really great, dramatic Olympics. They're rolling out an quote, again, incredibly ambitious broadcast plan across Peacock and NBC. This is the first time for a summer games that every hour of programming will be streamed across Peacock. So if you want to watch any event that isn't usually going to be on a linear broadcast, you can find it. So for me, I'm excited for the rugby sevens, which I don't even know if you can watch that outside of an Olympic year, but it's so much fun. According to Gary, there's a ton of excitement on the ground in Paris. It's the first time that fans are coming back to the crowd after COVID. They do expect this to be the most dramatic opening ceremony ever. It's the first time it's outside of a stadium, right?
Yeah, that I can agree with. First time on a river, first time they're not marching into a stadium. Like you alluded to, the visuals from Paris are going to be incredible. We're talking about events in front of Versailles. We're talking about events in front of the Eiffel Tower. I don't know what else you can ask for in terms of really stunning visuals like Gary was talking about.
You're going to be watching beach volleyball with the Eiffel Tower in the background. In terms of viewership, they really didn't want to get into specific predictions, which understandable because it is different this year. We're coming out of the Far East time zones for the first time in 3 Olympic cycles. And obviously, I don't know about you, Austin, but I was setting alarms for like 3 or 4 in the morning for the Tokyo Games to watch soccer, to watch basketball. I am so excited I don't have to do that. And if I'm excited and I love sports, it means the casual viewer is going to be tuning in more. But you've got a little bit of a harder way to measure it because Peacock, NBC, same day. There's just a lot going on.
Well, based on the numbers coming out of Tokyo, I was probably like most Americans, and I wasn't setting any alarms. Like least watched summer games yet, around 15.6 million there. When you look at everything across prime time there, that's cable and broadcast and streaming, they're going to see a very sharp uptick compared to those Tokyo games. I don't think they're going to return to what some of those pre-pandemic numbers, not by any stretch of the imagination. But how close can they get to 20 million? Is it going to be closer to 16 or 17 million? Or is it going to be closer to something like 18, 19 million? It's going to be somewhere in the middle there. But like I said, a healthy gain I'd expect over Tokyo in 2021. No fans in the stands there. But you talked about the streaming, Mollie. Yeah, we can always catch swimming during week 1 and gymnastics and then track and field. That's heavy NBC broadcast prime time during the games. But for some of those obscure sports like you're talking about, for me, I know this is going to sound crazy, I liked watching trampolining on Peacock during the last games. It is one of the most incredible feats of athleticism that I have ever seen in my entire life. If you haven't checked it out, please be sure to do so during these games.
Does this make me a bad sports reporter that I did not even know trampolining was an Olympic sport?
These athletes, just imagine, you're on a trampoline in your backyard. It is that on steroids. These people are doing so many flips in the air that I just can't even watch because it is an amazing accomplishment. Just something that I found really interesting in tuning into Peacock during the prior Olympics.
Okay, I know what I'm watching now.
Well, Mollie, I want to switch gears a little bit because we're also coming up on NFL season. And we've seen Netflix with Receiver and also HBO with this off-season Hard Knocks around the Giants, producing content, getting people in a little bit of a fervor ahead of the preseason. We got the Hall of Fame game coming up at the beginning of August. You and I both checked out a couple episodes of each. What do you think first of what Netflix was able to do with Receiver?
I think it's interesting. I mean, all 8 episodes are out now. It's a really good look into players' lives. That's actually how I learned that George Kittle's wife, Claire Kittle, played basketball at the University of Iowa. I didn't know that. I also do think it's interesting that unlike a Hard Knocks where you're focusing on the entire team and you're focusing on the front office and everything, Receiver, you're focusing on a specific position. You've seen them do that before with quarterback, right? Do you think they're going to do another one? If they're going to do another one, Austin, what position would you want to see them focus on?
Ooh, I love the skill position guys. Those are obviously the most popular one. I know Kittle was involved in this, but maybe you do tight end. Or what do I want to see? I want to see linemen next on Netflix. I want to see the big guys up front. I want to see their lives. I think that'd be incredibly interesting. But quarterback was a really good start for those Netflix NFL series. That was 3 quarterbacks during that season a year ago. I like that they expanded it. We had 5 guys that we're focused on this season for receiver, and they're all incredibly interesting personalities. My favorite, though, George Kittle. When his career is over, that man is going to have a very long career opining on the NFL on somebody's airways. Kittle is very passionate. I just love seeing his energy. Definitely betting on him to have a strong post-playing career on TV.
There's going to be a bidding war for him for sure.
Just like Jason Kelce, I see him coming immediately off the field, going into somebody's booth, really energizing wherever he lands. You know, we also watched this Hard Knocks with the Giants, and for us, covering sports business, I think it has been one of the best Hard Knocks, covering what goes on in a front office during that offseason before training camp even starts. What do you think about some of the characters and the access that the Giants have given in that show?
I'm actually a little bit surprised about how much access the Giants have given. And Hard Knocks has been criticized in the past a little bit for giving too much access to teams and distracting from the season. Having it in the offseason is pretty interesting. And I mean, look at the whole negotiations around Saquon Barkley, like the fact that we're watching that happen in near real time. I think it's really important for people in the sports business world to look at this and see this is what's actually going on in front offices. How is your front office doing it? What's the difference?
You know, something our boss Abe Madkour also wrote about, and I really agree with, is trust here. Trust between the Giants and the access that NFL Films is getting. Trust that John Mara and ownership has with the front office and the player personnel side and really making this work. I know a lot of Giants fans, at least the Giants fans that I know, aren't really happy with a lot of the Saquon Barkley stuff that they've seen, the negotiations, but this is why the show is interesting to fans. It's giving them that look. I really like, particularly from the angle that we are covering from sports business, what we have seen with that Giants front office. I can't wait to see this version next year, and maybe it'll actually build up for the Bears, who are doing the training camp version coming up here on HBO Hard Knocks.
Da Bears.
The Bears, the Bears.
The Bears.
Yeah, so receiver, Hard Knocks, you haven't checked them out, definitely do it if you're a documentary nut. I know I am. Molly, what is your favorite documentary that you've seen?
I've got a couple. I mean, first on Prime Video, you've got Dream On, which tells the story of the Atlanta Dream and how they basically flipped the Senate blue. And then secondly, there's one that just came out a couple days ago on Peacock. It's called Watershed, and it stars Mallory Wegman and her journey. She's a five-time Paralympic athlete, and she's executive producer of the documentary. And she's amazing. So I really enjoyed watching that and seeing this vulnerable inside look at her life.
And Molly, you also recently caught up with Mallory to speak about that documentary.